Hello, Money Queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, welcome back to Women Behind the Millions. I'm your host, Jessica Weaver. And tonight we're going to be talking about mental illness. This is something that my grandmother struggled with for her entire life. And I saw how it impacted her as a parent, her children, her career, a lot of her relationships. So we're bringing on a specialist tonight on our show. And an amazing statistic, as I was doing some research for tonight's show, Yale News says that it costs $282 billion to the U.S. economy for untreated mental illness. So our goal tonight is to get more support and resources out there for you, especially the parents of children and teens who are struggling with mental illness. So tonight we have with us Kendall Klas. She's a licensed clinical social worker who opened her practice Find Your Light Counseling for teens and young adults in 2020. Kendall has 13 years of clinical experience and has worked in a variety of settings, including partial care programs, community mental health centers, and private practice. Kendall specializes in treating adolescents and young adults experiencing anxiety, depression, and history of trauma. She also has a passion for the performing arts. She is an incredible singer, working as a musical theater choreographer, and currently singing an acoustic duo. Maybe we'll get her to sing all of her responses tonight, put her to the test. Thank you, Kendall, for being here on Women Behind the Millions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
What got you interested in becoming a therapist?
Well, it took me a while. I would say that it started for me in high school. I took a psychology class my senior year of high school, and I thought, this is the most interesting thing I think I've learned in a while. And I could see myself wanting to learn more of this. I also I think, was the friend growing up that people came to when they had a problem or they wanted to sort things out. So it just sort of felt natural. And I pursued it from there going into college.
And in college, you also pursued performing arts as well. Were they complementary to each other?
Kind of, yes. I was a psychology major and a dance minor. So I sort of pursued both avenues in terms of study. And I was in an a cappella group. So I was able to get the singing bitch scratched too.
Is it just like Pitch Perfect?
Exactly. Actually, it could not be more like Pitch Perfect.
I need to come back as a person with a nice voice because I would love to be part of a cappella group after watching those movies. Word too.
It's the best.
Well, we have a lot of questions, and we pulled our audience for some questions for you as well. So looking at it from the parenting perspective, Kendall, when is the time to bring in a therapist or a counselor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's very common for typical adolescent hormones or moodiness to be confused with something more serious. And sort of a baseline that I try to give parents is if you start to notice that the symptoms are affecting daily functioning. So this is kind of basic needs, in terms of sleeping patterns are significantly changing, eating habits are significantly changing, isolation in their bedrooms. Typically symptoms that are, I guess, more common would be more short-lived and kind of ebb and flow, weave in and out. So you might have a teenager that, I hate you, get away from me. And then maybe later that day, they're feeling fine. So you want to look for when it's consistent and it's long-term and their typical day-to-day functions are severely impacted.
So they're eating more or they're not eating anything.
Yes.
At all. They're sleeping a lot or they're up all night.
Mm-hmm.
And for how long is a period of time would you say to monitor this?
Yeah, I think it's obviously dependent on the child or the teenager. But I would say if this is continuing for several weeks into months, it's obviously something to be concerned about. And, in any case, really anyone could benefit from therapy. So at any point, it's probably wonderful to get the support if it's feasible for you and your child. But definitely when those things start to last for that prolonged period of time, you want to bring in some outside resources.
So bringing in a therapist doesn't mean there's something wrong necessarily. It's just a safe place where they can come and talk things through
Exactly.
with a neutral party. That's not their parents.
Exactly.
Do you find a lot of parents are in conflict over whether they should bring in a therapist or not?
I think that does happen. Probably not as often as you might think. I think most of the time, if a therapist is being contacted, typically if it's an adolescent under 17, it's going to be the parents that do the initial call. So at that point, I would say that both parents are pretty much on board. I mean, it can be a commitment, a time commitment, a financial commitment, and it's great that the whole family can be on board with it.
Sure. Going back to that statistic I said earlier from Yale News, 282 billion is the cost to the US economy for untreated mental illness. And they said when you are struggling with mental illness, you're going to consume less, invest less. You're going to choose a less demanding job, invest less in a house as well. Indiana University claims that untreated mental illness costs Indiana alone $4 billion each year. How could having a therapist change that cost?
Well, I think obviously if people have support throughout their mental health, because no matter what, there's going to be things that happen in your life that are difficult. There's going to be struggles, there's going to be conflicts. But to have that unconditional support where you've learned skills and you've learned how to function and manage if it is anxiety, if it is depression, and still continue to go to work and still continue to provide to the economy and then get your own paycheck. It's about gaining a set of tools so that you can still function even when things get difficult. So I think that those numbers would change if people knew what tools they needed to use.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not costly tools.
Right.
Necessarily. I remember my mother saying that her mother, so my grandmother, uh, her way of dealing with her bipolar disorder was she would take speed during the week
Oh my God.
and then she would take sleeping pills during the weekends. So her body was constantly battling itself. A lot different these days.
Correct. Those are definitely the unhealthy self-medicating kind of tools, but we're looking for obviously the healthy coping skills and the more positive choices.
Sure.
Yeah.
How can parents support their kids while they're in a therapy while still respecting the privacy and the work that they're doing with their therapist?
Right. So, especially with the age group that I work with, that is sort of that adolescent, high school age range into college, young adulthood, 20s, there is still obviously parent involvement, especially with the high school students. It's much more, they're still living within the context of their families. But the benefit and the beauty of therapy, especially for young people, is if they connect with their therapist, it becomes that complete safe haven. There's no judgment. They can speak freely. They know it's confidential. Of course, if there is any risk of danger, imminent danger, safety issues, they're told right away that the parent has to be involved and has to be included. But I think for the parent side, it is totally fine and appropriate and normal to, inquire about how the child maybe feels after the session, right? How did that go for you? Or how do you feel after you met with your therapist versus what did you talk about? Yeah. I think that can talk about exactly what did she complain about on this time. So that can be more invasive and kind of put up the defense mode. And then, your child will probably pull away from you more in that sense. But providing kind of the open-ended questions and just, if anything came up in therapy and you want to talk with me, I'm here when you need me. That's typically, I think, the best approach towards supporting your child while they're in treatment.
Okay, so kind of putting it in their court, letting them know you're open, you're there in a non-judgmental
Yes.
way.
Yes.
How about do the therapists help kind of coach the parents through that and what to say, what not to say?
Absolutely. Like I said, I think that the parent involvement is certainly important. I personally will do kind of parent check-ins, I call them, where after I've had a significant number of visits with the teen, I will have a parent check-in where they're able to share any concerns with me or things that they're seeing at the home. And I can kind of provide my feedback on what I think could most help the teen without breaking confidentiality. So
Mm, That's very important. Yes, right. And for the patient that you're seeing as well. And for it too, it's a different world than when we grew up. There's technology, there's social media, resources are at our fingertips. Kids at a young age have access to the internet, which they can can go any which way.
Yes.
Is the difference now? I can see there being more resources, but on the other hand, there's more triggers with social media for
Absolutely.
teens.
Yes, that's such a good point. I think that, you know, we do live in a day and age today where the younger generation is online 24/7. There's no break. I mean, the whole form in which they communicate, in which they connect with people, um, is just completely different than what we're used to. When we were younger, if you wanted to see your friend, you would call their house phone that you had memorized. You would speak to their mom or dad. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. So and so. Is my friend there? And in that way, we kind of developed these very natural communication and social skills that, kids today don't really have to do that. They just get your snap and then you talk with the friend and you don't really have to go through the parents. So there is sort of that lack, which I think personally has contributed to a lot of anxiety for kids because most everything now is through a screen. And some of that natural kind of organic chemistry or magnetism that you feel with somebody, you don't get. So it's definitely had an impact on today's generation.
Sure. Social cues,
Mhm.
interacting with people in
Mhm.
person. We're seeing it. I was just reading about financial advisors and how the older generation of financial advisors, they're fine with rejection. They grew up in it, they were trained in it, and the in person rejection too. I don't want to work with you, and you move on to the next. Whereas a younger generation, all of their rejection is online and through a text.
Right.
It's much different. So then when they're out in the workforce, they're not as risky
Mm-hmm.
asking for things, going for promotions, going for a sale,
Correct.
building a relationship as well.
Yes, it is. It's such a different world. I think even with this idea that there's kind of instant gratification everywhere where, kids, we have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime, and there's not a lot of space to sit in discomfort for kids. So it's harder, I think, nowadays. They couldn't imagine having to wait a week for their next episode of their favorite show. Like we did growing up. They get to just kind of binge watch a whole season in one night. And I think that has absolutely had an effect on the frustration tolerance of the younger generation and what they're able to, how they're able to cope with rejection, with disappointment, with the added piece that it is often online. They don't have the support right around them in that moment. So what they do from there can be tricky.
The patience piece of it. I see that. I go like, what is this thing? Yeah, it's a commercial or a preview. Why can't it go straight to the show
Mhm.
um, for it as well? And they don't really even realize like they just go from season to season to season. And they'll start from the beginning of the season and keep going through it.
Yeah.
I saw on social media this one mom, she had the screenshot and it was a dial up and she had the tone to go with it.
Yeah.
And she said, I made my kids watch this for 5 minutes before they can get on to Netflix and let me do your thing. Telling up into it
I love that actually.
as well. Um, we had one of our listeners, viewers ask the impact of choosing not to use technology for the first 6 to 8 years of a child's life.
Wow.
Do you see that being?
You know,
I don't know how they could avoid it. One,
I know.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think it because even at schools, they'll do brain breaks and movement breaks, and they do show, whether it's a clip on YouTube or an iPad.
Mhm.
So I think it's much more just about being involved and being aware and setting the boundaries around the exposure, which is what is a lot more realistic, I think, at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think that everything has a time and a place, and we do live in a different world today where unfortunately, I think everyone will have to deal with a screen at some point in their lives. So, we just have to be mindful about how and when we're implementing it for our kids.
Yes, maybe there's time limits or they earn it. There's different
Mhm.
things. So it's almost like this whole different etiquette boundaries that we never had to worry about growing up that we have to figure. And every family is going to be different.
Exactly.
I would imagine, and how they parent through that
Mhm.
too. You focus most of your work with teens and young adults.
Yes.
What are they struggling with most these days, would you say?
Like I said before, I think anxiety is the winner. To be frank, everyone experiences anxiety to some degree. I think that um, the kids today, for all the reasons we sort of were talking about, there's just this baseline heightened anxiety. There is still a lot of depression. There can be a lot of depressive episodes I'm seeing more than kind of the chronic depression symptoms. and a lot of relationship stuff, right? Whether it's friendships or romantic relationships or parent-child relationships. But, I believe that all boils down to the things that, we were chatting about, just the different generation and the troubles that they had today are unique to them because of how our world is now.
Yeah.
But anxiety is the winner.
I remember growing up and you didn't get invited to a sleepover. You didn't really find out until maybe that Monday.
Right.
Now you're seeing the pictures posted that night
Exactly.
in real time. So different.
So different. And so much more painful.
More painful. The bullying continues, whether you're at school or at home
Yep.
now as well. And the impact of social media is so crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
Large
Social
scale.
media is a big one.
How can parents, we see this, we hear this, and I did this to my parents. I'm leaving for college and I was a terror, a nightmare. There's summer going into college, right? Because we're trying to fight for our independence. We know I don't need you anymore, Mom. I still need you. As I'm crying, leaving the door.
Exactly.
Probably mood swings galore. How do we help kids, our babies who are now going off into the world as young adults, transition into that phase?
Yeah, adolescence is the peak of the individuation stage, which is where we experience individuation our whole lives, but in adolescence it really hits its peak, and it's this idea that we're kind of integrating our collective self-conscious into our conscious mind and completely creating a sense of self. So it is. It's totally normal in all those ways for teens to rebel. I mean, that's very stereotypical, but that it's them trying to find their identity and find their place. So I think when it's time to go off to college, which is obviously very scary and very exciting, my favorite kind of analogy to use is switching from manager to coach, right? So it's like you sort of feel like the manager when your kids are young and you're doing everything for them, you're taking care of their basic needs, making their food. And then when you're getting to older adolescence into young adulthood, you really sort of become that coach. You want to do things with them and you want to encourage them to make their own doctor's appointments, do their laundry, so that when they do go off to college, they feel ready, they feel confident, and they're starting to really identify, their sense of self. You also want to be similar to that space and that person that is there for them is the soft landing. If they're in therapy, you want to ask the open-ended questions. When they're away at school, you kind of want to do the same thing, right? You want them to want to come to you rather than kind of prying and judging. You want to just be the person that they call because they're having a great day or because they're having a bad day. So by being just that non-judgmental listening ear with unconditional positive regard, it just becomes a lot easier. The relationship gets better.
How about navigating if they're away at school or they're off living on their own and they are battling depression or anxiety, but you can't see that day to day like you did when they were in school living under your roof? How can you look for signs during that time of their life?
Yeah, that's obviously tougher because they're not physically there. It's for you to see the signs day to day. But a lot of it is about, if the work that you've done in adolescence and you've established that strong connection with them, you will pick up on things, right? If they call you when they're away at school and you can hear a shift in their voice, they're not as excited to talk about things. Maybe they're saying, oh, my friends are going out this weekend, but I'm going to stay in. And, obviously there are times and places where that's appropriate and they should, but it's the same idea. You just don't have as much of an obvious awareness to it. But the good news is, every college campus has counseling centers and they have help right there on campus free of charge. So it's always good to encourage, use of that for your kid if you sense anything is going on.
Good to know. Yeah, good to know. How about, do you see more teens in therapy than ever before?
Yeah.
With more awareness and more socially accepted for
Absolutely.
therapy?
Absolutely. There actually has been a steady increase in teens in mental health treatment since 2009. It's been slowly going up each year. And then after 2020, it kind of skyrocketed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Yes. So there definitely has been a change in the stigma. I think that it's much more freely talked about. I think that I think it's like something 1 in 3 adolescents are in therapy or have been in some point mental health treatment. But it's just much more accepted in today's world, which is great. But obviously also it can make things a bit tricky if, there's constant exposure on TikTok and Instagram of kids saying, I have OCD, I have this, I have that. And it's like, well, let's pause, let's see what the symptoms are and get you some professional help to see if there's a true diagnosis there. So definitely the stigma has gone down, which has encouraged a lot more kids to get much more involved early with getting help, which is wonderful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How about the progression to do we need to add a psychiatrist who can prescribe something?
Yes,
That must be a whole nother conversation.
absolutely. I think in terms of treatment with my own clients, I'll always start with the normal therapeutic process and kind of integrating whatever intervention is most appropriate. But there's been a number of times where after a certain amount of, sessions and treatment length, you realize that it's just they need that extra boost. And for so many, not just teens, but everyone, it is that combination of a successful therapeutic experience and the right medication for you to achieve optimal mental health. So it's typically for me, it's a conversation that I'll have with the teen first, and then we bring in the parent, and then I provide referrals from there. So it's not always needed, but it's certainly a tool when it is needed.
So you're watching and seeing,
Yes.
is therapy working? Are they progressing?
Hmm.
For it as well. Do the parents of teens need to go to therapy if their kids are in therapy?
Oh, such a good question. Well, if you ask me, everyone needs to. But
The gym for the mental health,
yes,
right?
exactly. Yes, I would say a good number of my parents, the teens that I see, their parents are in treatment themselves, which is wonderful. But like I said, I am also involved with the parenting when I am treating the teen. So
Mm.
no matter what, most often if you have a therapist that is working with a teen, the parents are going to be receiving support in some way, which is great. But I always encourage to get your own therapist as well because we all have our own stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And talk to your best friend or your husband, your spouse all the time might not be.
Right. We need an outside support sometimes.
Okay. Yes. And I've gone through to therapy twice when I had postpartum
Mhm.
after my daughter, and then during when I had my son, we had also put down our beloved dog.
Oh,
The same time, the hormones. I did not do well with
oh
hormones.
no. Oh no.
That threw me into it. So I've witnessed the benefits of it myself personally and going through it. And it's surprising because people that I never thought would be in therapy now are open to it.
Yeah.
So people are really coming around to it and seeing it. So hopefully getting the word out there really changes that $282 billion
Absolutely. That would be great.
difference. And they were talking about, days when you don't feel that you're not going to show up for work or you're not going to be performing at your best. Um, so how does that look as well? Well, Kendall, we have one more question for you.
Okay.
I'm going to let my daughter, Andy, ask you the question. What makes you a woman behind the million?
Oh, Andy, what a great question. So I would say being in a private practice and owning my own business was always a dream. And the fact that I have achieved it at this point in my life is beyond my wildest dreams. So the fact that you can start small on the, corporate ladder or whatever business you're involved in and work your way up and, no one can stop you from doing your own business, going out by yourself. You really are capable of anything. So I think starting my own practice in 2020 has made me realize that I am absolutely a woman behind the millions because I can achieve what I always thought I couldn't when I was younger. So stick at it.
What gave you that push to go into private practice? Because that's big endeavor to take on.
To be honest, it was the pandemic. So I opened in August of 2020. And once I realized I was working for a small group practice prior and the influx of clients was so extreme. And I realized so many kids need help right now. Like, all of their remote learning and they can't go out and see their friends and they were just dying for it. So I just said, if I was ever going to do it, now is the time because the need is so high.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And it's kept going.
Yeah.
Do you see your children following suit?
Um, we'll see. I don't know yet. Maybe. There's some like empathy built I see in my kids. So we'll see.
And where do you see the future for Find Your Light?
So, as I said before, I've always been really interested in integrating therapy with the performing arts. I personally love to sing, dance, and act, and I love working with kids that are interested in the performing arts. So, I am kind of in the works of planning a adolescent performing arts group therapy program where kids can come to a group session. They might be dealing with something difficult at the time, and we can sort of utilize the arts to help them process the experience. So whether they want to write a song about it, whether they want to perform a monologue about it, whether we want to like do a dance and get the anxiety out about it. So that's sort of where I'm going for right now. And then down the road, I'd love to hire more clinicians. I'd love to grow. I'd love to get a lot more kids in that we can help.
That's incredible. I could see that creative side of the brain helping people move through their emotions, right? Journaling, are you promote it
Yes.
as journaling?
Love journaling. I like to give my clients journals sometimes. Absolutely. Any kind of creative outlet will allow you to process your experiences in such a different way than just talking about it. Talk therapy is fantastic. Obviously, it's what I do. But there is anytime a client comes in with a creative interest, I really harness that and try to allow them to use that to the best of their ability.
Yeah, I found that with writing.
Hmm.
It's helped me understand myself, the world, my industry, so many different things. And I think people mix up on I should write what I'm an expert on. You should write what you want to know more about
Yeah,
and are curious about.
absolutely. And just letting it flow. And yeah, you always want to learn more and know more. And the only way to do that is to push yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes.
And to be curious. Yeah. That's fantastic. Cool. Thank you so much, Kendall Klas, for joining us here on Women Behind the Millions. Thank you, Money Queens, for watching tonight's episode. We cannot wait to see you next Thursday at 7 p.m.
Hey, money queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at PinkFixMyMoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money tips.